Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn and YouTube Live. I'm Dr. Kalpana Sandar, your financial doctor, your financial physician, and of course, my co-host with me is Marysol Uribe. I'm getting better at saying that with the accent.
Welcome, everybody. You are. I love it.
Well, we are here most weeks. I had to skip last week because I was traveling, and maybe the week before, I don't know what was going on. But what we try to do is deliver a little bit of financial wisdom and try to explain some things that maybe some people don't naturally know. And today, what we want to talk about is how everything can be way more customizable than people actually think. I think that people, when they're thinking about life insurance or any of these kind of investments, they kind of think like, I have to put a lump sum in and it has to be a certain way, and that's the only way to do it. And what we really want to have people understand is that this is all very, very customizable. We have dealt with some definitely like intricate situations where people want something very, very specific, and we can actually create that for you. So I think you had a story you wanted to share that I think will illustrate the point well.
Yeah, we've got a case study right now that we're working on with parents who want to leave a legacy. They've got three kids, and one of them has a medical condition. She's a female, and the other two um, are in better health. But long story short, we all want to see how we can position ourselves for the future, and one of them being long-term care. So if that becomes a concern, we have solutions tailored to that goal that also have some tax advantages. It's embedded within certain policies, certain plans that include tax-free accumulation of retirement dollars that you could use later, tax-free retirement income.
And people don't think about that. People think life insurance is just what happens when you pass away. But it's so much more than that. It could be a vehicle where you can start to really gain cash value. It could also be a vehicle to protect yourself while you're alive with some long term benefits and maybe even some inflow of cash if you need it, help with problems down the line. And it's actually a very safe and effective way to manage life as we get older, which is really good. And most people really just think 401k, IRA, but these are different vehicles that, there's no one size fits all. It's not like one thing is good and one thing is bad. It's just they're all a little different. And I would say the average person doesn't understand the differences. And that's where we come in, can really create a customizable plan for you to be able to maybe take care of the child that may need more care and more help in one way. Maybe the other children just, you would like to leave them money because they're in good shape and they just could use that money for whatever the way they want. There are also trusts that can be created so that all of this is outlined very, very clearly from the beginning. And I think most people, I mean, I know I didn't know this before I got into this line of work. And, that's so important to know that you can really create what you want for your life while you're around and as you get older, if you need long term benefits. And you can really customize what you leave behind as a legacy.
Exactly. And certainly there are different trusts, one of them being the Special Needs Trust, which I'm having a meeting about tomorrow. And this is something that is very prevalent. The statistical rates of autism and certain conditions
Mhm.
are greater now than they were several years ago. And so these needs continue to skyrocket in terms of priority,
Mhm.
which should be seen with a keen eye.
100%, 100%. Yeah, and I think really life is really just not very linear. We have different needs, we have different things that go on for each and every one of us. I just think that it's so important for people to know how intricate this tailoring process can really, really be. You can literally have all of your wishes and desires crafted into these different types of plans and policies and trusts, depending on what you're looking for.
Yes, Absolutely. And you gotta go with the right professionals who are ethical, who are not commission first, right? You wanna be able to sort of see through to your goals.
100%. And listen, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. There's nothing wrong with people making money. Nobody can afford to just do things for free. Everybody's got to make some money with what they're doing. That there's never anything wrong with that. The problem is that has become that water has become muddied, meaning people will look for their best interest first and not care about who they're serving. There's nothing wrong with people making money. If they're doing an ethical, clean service for you, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem only lies when somebody cares about their best interest over yours. And that's called a fiduciary responsibility. So, that's what I want people to understand out there too, because sometimes they're like, oh, well, somebody's making money. Well, yes, every service has to get paid. Nobody has the time or ability or the ability to do something for free. We all have to live, but there is plenty of money to go around as long as we're doing it from the best interest of our client, serving them fully first and foremost. That's the issue. And I think people get confused on that.
Yeah. You wanna be with someone that you're comfortable with exposing all of these details of every dollar that you have and where it's placed and
Mhm.
be transparent about the timeline of things, you know? It isn't necessarily, a fast situation depending on where the money comes from, if it's a qualified account or a non-qualified account.
Mhm.
We could certainly go over all of that with you. And just really take the time this week, now, if you're watching this, as you watch this, to go over your goals.
Mhm. Absolutely. And really, you brought up a really great point. There are a lot of parents out there dealing with this specific situation where they have a child who's going to be in need and likely will be in need after they're gone. It's every parent's responsibility to make sure that those children are taken care of in the right way. So if you're a parent out there and you have a child that is going to need some kind of special needs care, I think now is really a good time to think about it. So, I and it's hard. It's always hard to think about the fact that you may not be there to care for them, but it's harder to think about the fact that you didn't set up something for them while you were alive. That is much worse. I wouldn't want to live with that.
Yes, we're actually nearing the holiday of Thanksgiving, and this is a really good time to love one another, express your appreciation, and also to put things in writing.
Mm, mhm. 100%. 100%. And we don't like to look at these things, but I think the end of the year and the beginning of the year are great times to make sure all of the things are tidied up and wrapped up to move forward in the new year in the way that we want. So I think that's really, our big point today, the ability to have things that are customizable to your specific family goals, your personal goals, and what you need while you're living. And last but not least, to make sure that our loved ones are cared for when we're not there.
Remember, not all gifts come in a wrapper. Some come in papers and pens and a couple signatures.
That's a great point. Actually, honestly, those are the best gifts. The ones
They
that
are.
are real long-term solutions. I mean, you buy something and it's fun and it's exciting for a little while, but this kind of stuff, this is where you leave the legacy behind. Because once you're gone, I mean, I've thought about this a lot as I've, I have to change stuff quite often. Things change in my life. So you also have to keep up on top of it. It's not like you do it once and forget it. So that's another good point to bring up. But anyway, I just recently looked at everything again and I really realized as I get older, I think of it differently, that it's so important to, when I'm not here, for my children to know that I took care of things neatly even after I was gone. That shows them a lot about who I am. And it is the legacy I want to leave behind, not that I was sloppy or didn't take care of these things, right? That's just important for me. I mean, it may not be for everybody, but if it is something that's important to you, then this is a great place to start.
Right. And that's beautiful. After someone passes, you've got the emotional burden and a financial burden as well, if this wasn't taken a look at.
Right.
in due time.
Or even a logistical burden. I mean, if this hasn't been clearly communicated, I mean, all my things are clearly communicated. What happens if I'm in this condition? All of that is clearly communicated. And I remember when my son asked me, he goes, "Well, Mom, what do you want to do about this? What do you want to do about that?" I said, "It's all outlined. You don't have to
Mm,
worry about it. You don't even have to worry about it. I'm going to make sure it's all there, and you're going to know where to find it, so you don't have to worry about these things."
yeah.
Now they only have to deal with the grief that they've lost me, which is
Mhm.
big. No, I don't want them to deal with anything else. I don't want them to deal with anything else beyond that, because I just want them to know where it is and they can find it, and then everything's outlined. And it creates a lot of stress to a child. I know children that, are my age who have lost their parents recently, and nothing has been organized, and it creates a massive stress and a massive disruption on their lives, even for older children. So, the people I know, their parents are passing away, they're in their 50s and 60s, but it causes a massive disruption in their lives. So I want to point that out too, because I think people think of their children as being young, and then when they're
Mhm.
adults, it's fine. But that's not true. I have a woman, a friend of mine, who lost a mother. She's in the middle
Wow.
of dealing with so much red tape with her mother's
Mm,
estates, because she didn't have a trust and just a will, and there's so much red tape. It is taking up a lot of her time. Now this woman is very successful. She runs her own business, so she has better things to do than deal with all this. So
yeah.
again, that does create some difficulty for your children, no matter how old they are, and I don't think people realize that.
Which leads me to my next point. If you are a business owner, think of this as an additional SOP, a
Mhm.
standard operating procedure that you're going to have speak on your behalf should you be gone.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So, 100%. So, thank you for joining me. We like to keep these short and sweet. This one went a little longer. We got into some good conversation, but we try to keep it little nuggets of information to help all of you guys. So, we will see you again. Next Thursday is not Thanksgiving. Sometimes I have to look at the calendar. No, next Thursday we'll be here, but the following Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we're not going to be here. But thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Marysol, for being here and joining me on this. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.